You see lots of men totally checked out and just aimlessly through their phone and lost online. I wonder if we will, now we're starting to talk about smartphones and getting them away from less than 16-year-olds, whether we're going to start talking a little bit more about, do we need to take more of an Amish approach to new technology and go, what's this going to do? Is this going to throw acid over and corrode our society and our individual selves, rather than just allowing it out in the open?
I do think, so I've been on a bit of a journey with tech over the last year during this piece of research, in that I think at the beginning I was a bit more live and let live, like the genie's out of the bottle, you can't do anything about it now. I think as I've gone through it, there are so many things that we have seen where basically the bad just outweighs the good. And I'm like, why? I don't understand why do adults need to see beheading videos? Like, this is stuff we can really easily stop. Why, I keep hearing, I had several friends take their own life sort of shortly after the pandemic was over. And a lot of the time when you see these, you see people go on and go online and look at suicide ideation, things like that. So why do we can stop this now? We actually can, and yet we don't seem to. And I don't think anyone needs that freedom. There are plenty of things that we restrict in our lives. We don't, in the UK, we don't allow people to have weapons. We put drugs on prescription. We can put restrictions quite reasonably on things that are very harmful. And so I think I've probably gone on a bit of a journey on that. The slight flip side of it is I do think that the antithesis of the online world is real life relationships. And you were talking there about male spaces, and I think that is an area that we need to get a bit more realistic about. I think they've become, masculinity seems to come with the word toxic now. Actually, a lot of masculinity, a lot of male spaces are brilliant. Some of my best experiences in my life have happened with groups of blokes. And actually, going back, so when I had kids 17 years ago, I was very bad at it. And a friend of mine took me under his wing. And we set up a charity for new dads called Dads to Be. And we go around hospitals in West London and we'd spend a couple of hours with a midwife, first-time dads, get a room near the ward, and we talk about what does life look like with kids. And we do the next few months and the next few years. And then the last exercise we did with them was, right, 18th birthday, what do you want them to say about you? How are you going to put things in place to get there? And those sessions, we have 50 men in a room, me as the volunteer dad and a midwife to do anything scientific or technical that came up. But the questions that were asked in those sessions, the things that were said, would absolutely not have happened had their partners been in the room, without a doubt. I mean, I don't know if this is a PG podcast.
Say what you want.
But it's, things like, when will my wife's tears heal up so that I can have sex again? Or did your wife lose her figure after she had babies, and things like that? And being able to have those honest conversations about what men are thinking and what they want to say. But also the way they said it, there is definitely a male humor that is slightly different for women, that is a bit darker. And they don't want to be judged for that. They don't want to be cancelled for that. And I think one of those things that, I was talking to a school head the other day, and he was saying some of the worst bullying that you hear happens under the guise of banter. But also some of the best relationships that are ever made are based almost entirely on banter. Yeah. You go into a room of old friends and blokes tend to just tear each other apart. And it's this almost way of saying, I love you for men. Whereas for women, it's a bit of an anathema. And we have slightly pulled men away from being able to have these spaces where they can behave as they do. And I'm talking very much at a population level here. All men are different, all women are different. But at a population level, you find these things to be true. And so this idea that masculinity itself is toxic and men shouldn't be allowed to meet becomes really, really unhelpful. I one more example of this where I think it's just brilliant. So I coach junior rugby now. And that's something my kids have got me into, and I'm a terrible coach, but I enjoy time with them and what have you. And I think when I first got into it, I would sort of go there and think I will impart my great knowledge of this great sport to these young people and they will soak it up. And they very much did not. And I came away from the first couple of sessions thinking, God, these guys, they don't listen to me at all. They're a total nightmare. Why am I doing this? But the longer you do it, you realize the point of being there is each of these 16-year-old boys has something really special in them. And it's probably not their rugby. For most of them, it's definitely not their rugby ability. But there will be something that your job as a coach or a mentor or a parent, whatever it is, your job is to bring that out of them. So like there's this one lad, I won't use names in case they ever listen to this. There's one lad who they all think he's a great rugby player and he's pretty good. He might do all right. He won't make it professional, but they all love him because he's good at rugby. The reason I love him in that squad is he's a massive encourager. Even if he's not playing, he'll come onto the pitch and he'll G the boys up. And I'm like, even if you don't make it as a rugby player, and you probably won't, I want you in my team at work I want you to use this superpower of encouragement you've got in whatever you do. And I've got you 2 hours a week on a Sunday morning at the moment as a coach. What can I do to make sure that you develop that part of you so that when you go off into your life in a couple of years' time, you're doing that? There's another boy who we keep dropping, who is, keeps going between the A's and B's. I feel so sorry for him. He never gets a full game. And I can see he finds it really hard. But just talking to him at the end of the season, I was like, I know this is tough for you. And that's just the nature of, you're not quite nailing down a place, and we'll keep working on this and that. But you need to know that the resilience this is building in you, and the fact that you keep turning up, and the fact that when you get dropped, you win man of the match. Like, this is building skills for life in a way that nothing else will. And that's really important. But the reason I sort of go off on that tangent, that is built in a very male environment. Like, I have, we went on a tour over the summer, 37 boys, 30 men, like mostly dads, and it is a very male environment. But for those boys, it is really fundamentally growing into a man by looking at the men around them and how they behave. It really, really matters. And if we get rid of those spaces and say that masculinity is toxic and that men shouldn't be left by themselves, you lose something really golden in the development of young men.